Our last session for tonight. We will reconvene after the supper for the general meeting, but we have the most favorite last speaker of the day, Ryszard Kubiak.
Before you, I will make an announcement. Please subscribe to the workshops. There is a list. There's a piece of paper on which you can subscribe to tomorrow's workshops on lettering, drawing initials, and liner cut. The things you make tomorrow, you'll be able to nicely package into a nice gift box in a workshop which will be on Saturday by Billy Egger. So don't forget
proszę
that.
się zapisywać, proszę się zapisywać na warsztaty. Na zewnątrz są listy, na które się trzeba wpisywać. Warsztaty są jutro rano, tak? Czy przez...
Tak, jutro rano, od rana.
When is the initial meeting? Something was said about it.
It's something written up there, so just check that.
So, welcome, Ryszard.
Yes, welcome everybody. I would like to tell you about my work of the last several months, devoted to finding maybe a better notation than what is offered by XML or later. I work for a very small company. If Kavek said that his company is small and he employs 150 people, then my company is a micro one, only 12 men, 12 people.
No women?
No, there are 3 women. There are 3 women, my assistants. I work there as a technical writer. So the notation I prepared, the documentation, user manuals and user oriented help system is the notation is important because not only I am using it, I am
Luckily.
yes, it's also my assistants. Another reason why I'm looking for a good notation is that the Professor von Trubska I told you about a few years ago is thinking about writing new 2 books, and the stuff I made 3 or 4 years ago for her now is actually has to be changed. And I am thinking whether this XML approach was right. Actually, the way I am working at my job and the way I worked with her, with the professor, who is a linguist, was in spirit similar to what Kavek was talking about. Namely, the tech stuff is to a large extent concentrated on content, not on the layout. There are macros that are devoted to the layout, and still, when we prepare the text, it's only the content what matters. Say is recommended by the authors of, say, LaTeX and many other approaches. Okay. What is this here?
Tu myszą zjeżdżać w dół.
Ale tutaj coś się wyświetliło dziwnie. Okay. What the idea of markup is, we all know, because we are using TeX, and TeX is about markup. The language of TeX is a markup language. Normally, we prepare text marked up with some tags we hope that the typesetting device will understand our markup and it will be able to produce, say, not only one output, maybe several formats. It's not only the device that is to be to understand the notation. I prefer the notation to be also readable for people, because when we write the text, we want to express it. We want the notation to be simple and comprehensible, and not obfuscated with too many markup. Okay, who is preparing? There are very many markup notations, markup languages. Who is preparing them? Well, actually, it's programmers, because it's not enough to design a new language. If we want the language to be processed by a computer, then we have to have the skills of programming skills in order for the language to be processed by the computer. For who is the user of those notations? Well, the creators themselves. In many situations, people are preparing the notations, design the languages for themselves. Knut is one of them. He designed the notation of Czech for himself in first place, and for other technical writers. Of course, technical writers who have the skills to understand the idea of markup and to foresee what will come out from what they are writing, and well, possibly other authors like Professor Wątróbska I told you about, or maybe other linguists, or maybe novel writers. One of the ideas is people design the languages having in mind that well, they will write. This will be the source of a notation, and possibly there will be many outputs. Something that Kabe was talking about. There are very many markup languages. Here are a few. We know. I put here, say, my classification of the markup languages in terms of whether they are heavy or light. A heavy notation is such that the tags actually dominate over the content. And XML is actually, I think, the heaviest one. HTML is a variant of XML. XML is here, say, they distinguish because it's extensible. It's extensible, which means that there are very many notations based on XML syntax. Czech isn't the lightest possible markup. Actually, if you forget about the typographic details, then and you limit yourself to just the structure, the document structure, then Czech and XML are actually very close in the terms of how heavy they are.
Znasz Czesza?
Trochę. And these languages, well, Wiki is actually very popular now. Very many people are using Wiki notations, and actually all these notations are similar in spirit. I will show you an example. This is an example of how heavy the XML notation can be. It's a paragraph, and this is something which I think is an example of something very, very heavy. Instead of writing key shift button, shift hyphen button, which I would I would prefer to write, the DocBook standard suggests that we should arrange the key combination shift left button, left button in this way, that we are saying about the key combo actually is that it should be pressed simultaneously, the shift from the keyboard and the button from the mouse. And this writing actually, this piece of text actually means just this single action of pressing shift and left button. When we learn DocBook, there are some nearly 500 tags in DocBook, in DocBook's definition. Then we have to know when we are allowed to use para. It's actually and when we can use a sim para. A sim para is a tag that can be used in certain situations. A sim para cannot contain a block, something that is called a block inside. For example, a sim para cannot contain a table, nor it can contain a para. So DocBook is actually, in my opinion, very difficult to learn. Of course, if you prepared 1, 3, 4 documents, then you will learn it. However, the text is when you prepare it on a typical using a typical text editor, the text is clumsy and it's difficult to arrange the whole stuff. What happened?
Nacisnąłeś nie simultaneous.
No właśnie, nie trzymałem się tego.
Musisz prawo.
And here is a notation, a piece of text written in notation called ASCII doc. What we have here? Well, it's a section title, underlined in this case. Other ways of marking section titles found that in other notations are, for example, this convention, section. And the more equalities are here, the deeper you are in the structure.
I would say that the number of dashes is definitely more than backslash chapter and two braces.
Pardon?
So it's not that light because the number of, what is it, dashes or tildes? Tildes, the number of tildes is more than backslash chapter and two braces, so it's not light.
This is considered light because you don't.
Okay, there you win.
This is considered light because you write an item from itemization without telling the whole word item. Still, problems start when we go to some more complicated stuff. Links are marked by a word with a colon. The output of when we process the text from the previous slide, with the ASCII doc program, we get this HTML piece of text. Again, a list of standards together. Well, as we know, XML is extensible in the sense that if you prepare DTD, then you may use the DTD to say, check the validity of XML text. Many people are using Wiki, still there is no standard markup yet. Actually, there are many, say, Wiki systems, each which is using its own variant of Wiki notation and transforms it to HTML.
And which of them allow defining your own markup?
Yes, it's an important question. I will tell you about it.
Because tech is able, it's XML is also.
We of course want the notations to be extensible. In what sense I will be talking about. I will tell you. I've added additional coordinate here because I think that the notations should not only be classified in terms of whether they are light and heavy. I think that there is some other notion that can be applied here, is whether they are shallow or deep. This deep may be involved. And tech is actually very involved because it's equipped with an internal language. We write extensions of tech within tech, which in certain situations leads to some surprising results, which are not found in other notations, XML including. For example, consider this command, latex command or tech command. Emphasize the argument and put a par here. If we look at this piece of text, then when we look at this place here, it's not visible instantaneously that there will be a par put here.
So rather local, non-local, yeah? Deep, shallow.
Does it work in LaTeX? I don't know. I don't know LaTeX. Does it work in LaTeX?
Of course, you can put a par wherever you want.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, if not in a box or something.
This is question of non-locality. That in a given part of the source you don't see.
No, it's a matter of what a command can do. It can transform your text in any way, actually. And in this sense,
so but this is
when you read this text from left to right, okay, and then it's not enough in tech. It's not enough to say store this as a node, a command that has been called here. You have to execute the command, which means that you will turn the text into such a thing. So this is here a par, okay. Which means that when you are looking at the text you prepared, it's not the final version of the text. It can be transformed.
But isn't that the same in HTML you put in shallow? Yeah. So with HTML, that's the same thing. You have a different CSS that puts something before or makes it basically display.
Actually, CSS is something that can be it's from outside of HTML.
Yeah, but the tech engine is basically from outside left. Because if I do left part equals lex, I don't get a new line. You see it?
Yes, which means that it's even deeper. Okay, this par is not necessarily a par. Another thing which is related to whether text can be considered a deep language concerns the par command. The paragraphs are marked like this in HTML, like this in DocBook, and actually text is special in the sense that the par command marks the end of paragraph. Why is it special? Well, one of the aspects I have in mind is that given the source file, say in LaTeX, I want to transform it maybe to a PDF or maybe to a web page, to HTML. And there are tools that can do such thing. Text for HT is one of them. I found two other tools, HyperLaTeX in Emacs or Plus, written in Python. Consider this document. Here are two paragraphs. I found this on the web. Here are two paragraphs. This empty line is the end of paragraph in terms of text. If we don't go deep enough with the analysis, then we may end up with this HTML output. This is considered by the tool, Plus called, as a beginning of a paragraph. It doesn't see this leverages you to a higher level, which means that you start another paragraph in the mind of the tool, and then we end with one of the paragraphs, start again this paragraph. What is important here is that it is not very easy to find where a paragraph starts in.
You can add always your own definition of beginning and end of paragraph.
Yes, I can do it, but but this then makes the source more clumsy. Okay.
It's actually weirder. Can you go back?
Yes, sure.
Because the paragraph doesn't start at the beginning of the curly brace.
Yes, it's neutral.
It starts as soon as the first character is typeset.
Yes, but the tool that takes this notation should take this into account, that the brace is actually neutral against...
Provided it is not redefined.
It's not neutral, it's...
Yes.
And T is not redefined also. The letter also is not redefined.
If we look at that there are... this is my attempt to classify the tags we can found in various notations. Tags can be embracing in the sense that they mark the end and then the content is inside some brackets. There are items that have a meaning just in one place. The par is an example of this. Here is the end of a paragraph. Here an item starts. Actually, in HTML, this could be considered a spot tag. There are also some abstract tags that serve as to organize the say database of a document. A document can be considered a database. Table of contents, indices, and glossary or such things. Links. What are links? They are actually can be found in any notation today because everybody wants to publish their documents on the web. Even at the very little lexical level, there are subtleties. For example, we have this this character to mean non-breakable space. Today, I would probably use a non-breakable space which can be found in Unicode. There is a special character.
In Unicode, you have about 8 or 10 spaces in non-breakable space and
not only
invisible separator and so on.
So
Not so easy.
Okay.
Especially because they are invisible.
Yes.
In some notations, new line characters mean the end of paragraph. Just just the end of a line means the end of paragraph. Like in Word, we write a very long line actually in terms of text, and when we make a carriage return, then this turns into an end of paragraph. Lots of problems with this. Actually, when we talk about a markup language, then actually each of the languages has many notations inside. For example, here it's not just one notation. Here's a switch to some internal notation, which has its own syntax. Okay. When we include graphics, that this notation here does not belong actually to the language. It belongs to the operating system. We refer to here to something external. In LuaTeX, we have here an execution of a command. So actually, any of the languages, whether light or heavy, must use various kind of notations. MathML is actually an attempt to run away from this notation. Should we? Let's skip this. Yes, extensibility. Well, text is extensible in the sense that we may write. It's actually text. The language of text is Turing complete. We may write anything in text. I think, it's my personal opinion, this makes text too complicated. Perhaps it would be better to allow the language to be extensible in the sense that if you design a new piece of notation that you want to put into your language, then let some external tool interpret the notation, this extra piece of notation, this new element, and it's not needed for a language to be extensible internally.
I think maybe you could say that extensibility is actually that the opposite goal, which some people have, is actually restrictability. So some people want actually to be able to restrict a notation and give a certain subset, and that's, I think, something that is not so easy in text, that you have to do a lot of work.
Well, you may limit yourself to a subset of notation.
There is no way in text to limit.
Is no way. Processing tools. Well, DocBook is not only a very complex notation. It is also equipped with very complex tools written in Java or maybe in Perl. For LaTeX, we have several possibilities of transforming it to HTML. ASCII-Doc is actually a Python script, and it works in the way we get the text and we produce a text, another text. It's actually something that is characteristic of all the tools, that they take a text in one markup notation and they transform it to another markup text. Sometimes there is an abstract syntax tree on the way, or DOM, document object model. I think that some extra level is needed, some extra, or maybe many levels after we get this abstract syntax plus additional data structures like indices or glossaries or list of tables, table of contents. They are additional data structures. From these, maybe in one step or maybe in a few steps, we, instead of doing the way many of the markup tools are doing, producing the output markup, we should first arrange some intermediate markup, not markup, abstract data tree, in order for the last stage to be very simple and comprehensible. What is actually very important when markup notations are considered is that we may have support from tools that are not devoted to processing. We may, because they are plain text, we may use tools to express the differences between the versions of text we work on. So, just to end, tech is, as I said, very involved in the sense that the notation may transform the text you are analyzing in various ways. It does too many things at once in a single step. The way it works is very intertwined. Perhaps it could be replaced, I don't know how, but it could be possibly replaced by a system in which there would be simple syntactic rules allowing you to express your thoughts, extensible in the sense that there would be an external device to simply do as a module to do this thing here. This should be extracted from from tech. Take an input markup and produce something. Kaveh was talking about producing XML. Is it DOM that you are producing, or just the XML text?
It is. Well, DOM is HTML, not XML, in fact. But you mean data structure?
Some kind of data structure, internal data structure that the say Turing complete device can manipulate in any way you want. Yeah. The JPath being a library in it, and not an external, say, schema, and not an external schema. And this should be one module of the typesetting system. Then producing the output can, once you have build the DOM or the abstract syntax tree, you may transform it in any way you want. Then you do some intermediate state of getting closer to the output, and you produce the output which can be a text or PDF or something. So these are my impressions about.
I do not understand why this extensibility, external extensibility, is much better than internal.
Because then
Complications level is it's not so complicated. The climbing, the learning curve is not so steep. You have everything in one mix-up.
Yeah, okay, but you have to watch two kind of sources to understand how it works.
No, you read two manuals instead of one complicated. Two simple ones.
I cannot see why it's simpler. It's complex in the same way.
Jacko,
I don't speak about tech.
Let me say this. I started from saying who is writing the notations. It's programmers. I don't believe that my professor von Trubska will be able to extend her notation in a comprehensible way and guarantee that what she has designed, what she has in mind, will be properly transformed to the output. I don't believe in such things. She has her own speciality and she employs some programmer to do this for her. Okay? And as a programmer, I want to have the full power of programming. Not something limited to a schema, XML schema.
Or to tag definitions.
And then there is only one manual needed for me, so that I know how to write programs in this notation, to serve the purpose, and a little manual for her that you have these and these tags that you may use.
I think the way I understand it perhaps is that there's a separation between, well, a declarative part and an implementational part, or basically, you know, the external API and the internal implementation, and actually the syntax of the notation for me is basically an API to my text. I don't want to deal with the implementation, I want a cleanly defined interface.
Yes.
So it's my interface, but I don't want to mix the interface with suddenly sort of calling private classes.
That's right.
I want this, it's kind of like...
Yes, you're right. This is my way of thinking.
I just wanted to say that I cannot agree more. Everything you said about the preparing the structure and going through the structure, transforming the structure, which is not the same as transforming the syntax, because syntax has nothing to do with it. And syntax is just a way to obtain the initial data structure, probably, but the initial data structure can also be constructed in other way, not only by translating some input notation. And then you can transform this data structure, produce the resulting data structure, and then this resulting data structure can be serialized to many possible forms, like PDF or whatever.
Yes.
So I agree completely. Yeah.
Well, all of the authors I mentioned of the tools here, they think in terms. There is a notation, some writing, a string of characters, and I want to produce another string of characters.
Which is good.
Well, it works for them, okay, but I'm not happy with it.
So the only solution is XML, because that has the tree view.
No.
Yeah.
Well, this DOM here.
Everything you want.
As long as you work on internal representation of the XML and not as on text.
Why not? If you have a properly coded document, you have a tree view, you can manipulate it in any way you want. If you have badly coded XML, fine. But if you have badly coded markdown or badly coded text or badly coded anything, you can hardly make anything better from it. The problem is part of the problem is that at the beginning there's a user who inputs something. Yeah? And say that for instance that you use markdown. There also the empty line has some kind of meaning. Yeah?
Yes.
So if a user messes up the coding, you will never get something right at the end. And the problem is, in my opinion, that with all these encodings, it's always in the user. The user, if he is not willing to spend time on properly coding the input, then the output, no matter what transformation you do, will always be subjective. And the thing is, yeah, that you probably, a lot of you probably are not ready for doing the investment of input to make sure that they get guaranteed the right view, either in a DOM or whatever, and eventually the right output.
The input must be easily transformed into data structure.
So the input should have enough information
To transform into data structure. And data structure is the main form. Not XML representation or any other representation, but data structure.
The other way around. You are talking like a programmer at the moment. You said it must be easily transformated into a data structure. No. It must be such that it allows the author to express himself properly, easily, and do what he wants. Right? And then you come as a programmer, and whether in a complicated way or a simple way, you do your job in producing the output. So it must be the other way around.
But then you have to accept that there are many cases where you cannot, as a programmer, no matter what you try, you cannot make something from nothing. If there is no structure, you cannot make structure.
No, not what I'm saying. It must be easily transformable, but easy to use. Transformation is the second thing. It must be easy to use, easily expressive.
XML is easily transformed, but it's not easy to use.
That's right.
Okay. The proper editor is easy to use.
Maybe not use, but
to write.
Right.
To input.
Yeah, right. Input. Right.
Can I make one just very brief comment about all that we've talked about here is I feel increasingly that it is to some extent sort of barking at the wrong tree to some extent, because what we're dealing with is basically we are talking about the human-machine interface that is very primitive because it's limited to a number of plastic rectangles on a physical keyboard, which is 100 years old. And lots of this discussion is about, well, how do I do it so that pushing the user can remember which little boxes to push, because then it's ASCII, oh, let's not, you know, if we had a different input method, which basically did not have, you wouldn't have to, you could just use, I don't know, 500 symbols or whatever, 500 entities, address them directly rather than, or more directly. Right now you can only address a limited number of entities directly by pushing those buttons, and then some people use Alt or Shift, usually works. The other ones, it's more difficult, you know, you don't really remember how to put the dash, so you invent backslashes and everything. That is all very limited to the keyboard, and the whole notion of even XML is basically made because of the computer keyboard.
Of ASCII code.
Yeah, yes, and that's, it may be, there may be some other answers somewhere else, I'm not sure, but it is a hardware problem that software developers are trying to fix by doing this. But it's actually a hardware problem.
Parallel there. If you look at the industry of making of television, where you used to have these special devices for making a face. It was physical. Yeah? You have some hand that you moved and you made a face from one to the other. At some point, people decided that that should be translated into moving a mouse over your table or something. We lost a lot of that. Actually, there was a time, you saw it in the Linotype movie, there was a time that there was thinking like we need to make dedicated devices. But somehow, maybe 10, 15 years ago, we lost that. Yeah? Everybody is using this, and you're right, everybody is using this keyboard. And
because it's universal.
Yeah, I've always been surprised that there should be a market simply for, let's say, a Microsoft Word dedicated keyboard. It is a big number of users. I think there was something for some time for word perfect at some moment. Yeah, well, but somehow.
Yes, it's also amazes me that people spend a lot of money in computer hardware, but if they buy a computer, they often buy like a 20 euro mouse and a 25 euro keyboard, and these are actually the ones that the body is in the most contact with, is the mouse and the keyboard, and they actually buy the cheapest thing possible, and the hardware vendors aren't doing much about it. I'm sorry, it's drifting off time, and we are already.
There was something for when to a publisher. There was some kind of bigger.
Let me go ahead.
Actually, special input devices exist and are used by gamers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good point.
High-end mouses,
very good point,
configurable whatever you want, or keyboards with whatever,
lots of extra keys,
programmable to whatever you need and configurable whatever. So still exists.
Richard, in your slide, yes, with a deep, swallow, light, where would you place Javadoc in JSON?
Well, they are at the very end. Javadoc.
Javadoc, that is a text markup.
Ah, okay. Well, it serves for very specialized application. It serves to make a nice presentation of a programmer's documentation.
It's an example, light markup.
Okay.
We have very little time.
Yes, I need to break it down now.
It's absolute. It's difficult to have a light markup.
I need to break it up. Okay.
In JSON.
Thank you. Thanks everybody. Thank you.